All right, get ready to dive deep, because today we're tackling tax evasion. And wow, you've really gone all out with the source material.
Someone's been doing their homework.
We've got excerpts from the Wikipedia article on tax evasion, a couple of academic papers.
Oh, those are dense.
They are. And to top it off, you even included some of your own notes. You're serious about getting to the bottom of this.
Absolutely. There's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
That's what we're here to find out. So in this deep dive, we'll be sifting through all this information to figure out exactly what tax evasion is, and just as important, what it isn't.
Because the line can get surprisingly blurry.
We'll also explore the methods involved, the motivations behind it, and the impact it has on the world.
And believe me, the impact is far-reaching.
Wikipedia defines tax evasion as the illegal evasion of taxes by individuals, corporations, and trusts.
Catchy, right?
Well, the key takeaway there is that it's illegal. That's the crucial distinction between tax evasion and tax avoidance, which is using legal means to reduce your tax burden.
It's like the difference between finding a clever shortcut in a board game and just outright cheating.
Exactly. One is playing within the rules, the other is, well, breaking them.
And it gets even more complicated when you consider the global landscape. What's considered tax evasion in one country might be perfectly above board in another.
It's like trying to navigate a financial maze blindfolded.
In a way, it is. And then you've got the evolution of technology, cryptocurrency, online transactions. It's a whole new ballgame.
It sounds like we've got a real challenge on our hands. Speaking of challenges, you mentioned in your notes a case where someone tried to pass off personal expenses as business deductions. I imagine that falls into that gray area we were just talking about.
Absolutely. That's a classic example of trying to blur the lines.
It's a slippery slope.
It really is. And then you've got the more elaborate schemes like setting up a complex web of shell companies to hide assets.
Oh, you were talking about that case I read about, the one with layers upon layers of companies all designed to make it impossible to trace the money.
Precisely. It's like a financial game of smoke and mirrors.
It's amazing how much effort people put into avoiding paying their fair share. But I guess that brings us to the question of why. I mean, Wikipedia mentions greed, which is certainly a factor, but your notes and those academic papers you sent suggest a more complex picture.
Oh, definitely. It's rarely as simple as people just want more money.
Right. It's like there's a whole psychology behind it.
Exactly. For one thing, tax codes can be incredibly complex. Have you ever actually tried to decipher some of the language in those documents?
I'd rather wrestle with a bear. The complexity alone is enough to make anyone's head spin.
Exactly. And when something is so confusing, it's no wonder people get things wrong. Or, shall we say, intentionally misinterpret the rules.
And then there's the whole trust issue, right? Like if people don't trust the government or they feel like the system is rigged against them.
Absolutely. That lack of trust can be a major breeding ground for tax evasion. People start to feel like, why bother playing by the rules if no one else is, or if they believe their tax dollars are being wasted?
Or even worse, used for things they fundamentally disagree with.
Right. It creates this sense of, well, if they're not going to use my money responsibly, I'm going to keep it for myself.
I can see how someone could end up there. But we have to be clear. No matter the reasons, tax evasion is a serious offense. We're not talking about a parking ticket here. This is the big leagues.
Exactly. Tax evasion is a crime, and the consequences can be severe. We're talking hefty fines, potential jail time.
Wikipedia even mentioned they could take your stuff.
Asset forfeiture, yeah. That's definitely on the table, especially in cases involving large sums of money.
So it's not just about making people pay what they owe. It's about deterring future evasion as well.
Right.
Making an example out of them.
Absolutely. Governments want to send a very clear message that tax evasion will not be tolerated. But on the other hand, with the risks so high, you have to wonder, how are people still getting away with it? I mean, they're catching billionaires, celebrities, people with resources coming out their ears.
It's like trying to catch a ghost.
You
You know it's there, but good luck actually getting your hands on it.
The cat and mouse game we talked about earlier. And speaking of which, you know what really brought this whole issue into the spotlight for a lot of people?
Let me guess. The Panama Papers.
Bingo! That was a bombshell, a massive leak of confidential documents exposing this whole network of offshore accounts.
It was like lifting up a rock and seeing all these creepy crawlies scattering in every direction. It revealed a whole other world of financial secrecy, and not just a few bad apples either.
We're talking politicians, celebrities, business tycoons. It was a real who's who of the global elite.
It just goes to show this issue transcends borders, professions, even income levels. Speaking of which, in my notes, I jotted down a reminder about that celebrity chef, the one who got caught underreporting income from his restaurants.
Oh, right. Classic case of creative accounting gone wrong. But I guess even with fame and fortune, the temptation to evade taxes can be too strong for some.
It's a reminder that this can happen to anyone. But it also highlights that authorities are getting better at catching evaders. They're using data analysis, artificial intelligence. There's even more international cooperation,
It's definitely becoming more difficult to hide in the shadows.
which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But with all the complexities we've discussed, how can they possibly stay ahead of the game?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. And frankly, there's no easy answer.
It's like we need some kind of secret weapon, something to even the odds. So what's in the arsenal? Are we talking about, like, drones cracking money transfers or something?
Well, we're not quite there yet, but artificial intelligence is becoming a game changer.
AI. Huh. I can see how that could be useful, but how do they actually use it? Is it like having a robot tax auditor breathing down everyone's necks?
It's more like giving human auditors a serious upgrade. Imagine being able to analyze millions of transactions, pinpoint patterns, and spot inconsistencies that would make even the sharpest human eye go cross-eyed.
So AI is taking on the role of a digital detective, sniffing out the bad guys. Pretty cool. But this all sounds kind of reactive. What about stopping tax evasion before it even happens?
Now you're talking prevention, and that's where things get really interesting. Remember those academic papers we mentioned? They make a strong case for simplifying tax codes as a major preventative measure.
Makes sense to me. It's tough to follow the rules when you practically need a law degree to understand them. But can it really be that easy? Just make the tax code simpler?
It's definitely not as simple as it sounds. There will always be inherent complexities, but streamlining certain aspects, making the language clearer, that can make a real difference. And it's not just about simplifying things. We also need to address that whole issue of tax morale.
Oh, right, right. It's not enough to just scare people into paying taxes. They need to actually believe in the system.
Exactly. People are more likely to comply when they feel like the system is fair, that their contributions are valued and used responsibly.
It's about fostering a sense of shared responsibility, like we're all in this together.
Exactly. And that requires transparency, showing people where their tax dollars are going and how they're making a difference.
It's about building a system that people actually trust and want to participate in, not one they feel forced to cheat. Well, this deep dive has been quite the journey. We've covered everything from the basics of tax evasion to the role of AI and the importance of building a fairer system.
We've explored the motivations behind evasion, the global scale of the issue, and the cat and mouse game between evaders and authorities.
And we've seen how technology is both a challenge and a potential solution in this ever-evolving landscape. But as we wrap up, here's something for everyone to think about. With technology advancing at breakneck speed, what new challenges and opportunities will emerge in the fight against tax evasion? It's a question that will continue to shape the future of finance and governance.
It's a question without easy answers, but it's a conversation we need to keep having.
Absolutely. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder that thought. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the complex and often shadowy world of tax evasion. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.